Hey everybody, Taz from Critical Thinking Anarchist here. Okay, we need to talk about this one. Um, Mental health is a big issue. If you, of course, you've seen all the trans rights, all the other fun stuff out there. That's several videos in and of itself. But this particular one, uh, this is a semi-regular occurrence, and by regular I mean this happens. I don't mean frequently. I mean regularly. I probably somewhere between 2 and 5 times a year I will see a headline similar to this where there is a mentally ill person of some sort, for whatever reason, who gets shot and likely killed by police. Um, and the person is like, they were aware of it. I told them on the phone, I told them whatever, da 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 da. This particular instance, apparently the police had dealt with this woman multiple times. Here's the thing: when you call 911, you're calling the police. The police are there to stop a threat, and it's unfortunately, it is sadly going to probably be a deadly force. They can do what they can, but the police are not there to. Um, they're not there to. They're not trained. They're not that to help mentally ill people. If you want that type of thing, call a crisis counselor, call a psychologist, call a psychiatrist. I mean, there are professional people who deal with that all the time. Like, if you've got someone who is potentially this violent and can only be talked down by a certain number of people, like you got to go through that. You can't just call the police and expect them to deal with it, even if they know the person. And there's a big reason why this happened. So anyway, um, a woman who North Branch police fatally shot on Thursday night was struggling with mental illness and alcohol, according to her husband. So, okay, those are two bad combinations to begin with. If you got someone who is mentally ill, you really do not want them around alcohol. Alcohol is probably alcohol on itself is dangerous. Alcohol, you know, even if you got the best person in the world, and you get them on alcohol, especially hard alcohol, because beer kind of affects people differently, but for the most part, beer just kind of calms people down unless they get too drunk. Hard alcohol affects everyone differently because everybody's tolerances are way different. So Nick Williams said on Sunday that his wife, Jamie Crabtree, was known to police, and officers had responded to their home near 3rd Avenue, blah, 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 more than 5 times in the last few years to get help for her related to those issues. Yeah, and so they know she's a problem. Yeah, they may know she has mental illness, but they also know that at some point that's going to be it. Williams said he called 911 for the final time on Thursday after he found Crabtree outside with a bottle of rum, there's, like I said, hard alcohol, in one arm and a black case he knew had a gun inside of it. I'm just saying, alcohol and firearms. Again, firearms and alcohol, firearms and mental illness, each of those are bad combinations on their own. Firearms with alcohol and mental illness is literally the most deadly combination you could probably think of outside of someone on a rampage. I called the cops for help. I called them to help her. He said they knew she's mentally ill. She's drunk and she got a gun, and she's mentally ill. What do you think is going to happen? Again, you're not calling family. You're not calling a crisis counselor. You're not calling her regular psychiatrist or psychologist or a mental health professional in some sort. You're not calling her best friend who knows her better than anybody else. You called the police to respond to a deadly threat. Official details remain sparse as of Monday. According to an initial police press release on Friday, officers responded to a report of an intoxicated and suicidal woman who was armed with a handgun. And after officers located her, one discharged a pepper ball and another fatally shot her with a gun. Now, again, we're missing context on this. Like you don't just show up and be like, well, bang bang, let's see what happens. Let's see what gets her first. I said, where are you going and why do you have that? Williams recalled from the final conversation with his wife after discovering her outside, and she said, I'm out of here, and I go. Well, then I need to call the cops and get some help. You knew what you were doing. You knew what you were doing. I don't care. You knew what you were doing in that case. You know, the same routine, but this time she had the gun in the case. Do you see? Do you see the difference? Williams said his wife walked away from him across a nearby open field as he made the call, telling the dispatcher that suicide by cop was among her final comments. Well, she got her wish. And I emphasized the gun case, he said, adding that he reiterated this to an officer who arrived on the scene minutes later. So they knew she was diddly and drunk. Williams said just 1 or 2 more minutes passed before he heard 6 to 12 gunshots. Police haven't clarified whether Crabtree took the gun out, and Williams said he could only see that she fell to the ground. He said he questioned the time it took after that for the cops to render aid. They shot her. She wasn't moving, Williams said, but nobody made an attempt to go help her until 17 minutes later. But she was a deadly threat. They have to protect themselves first. They don't know whether she excuse me, they don't know whether she was still alive and intended on harming them. They don't know what happened. Through it all, Crabtree was on the phone with a client she's close to as a personal care attendant, Williams added. He stated to me she was calling out for help, begging for help. Neither the North Branch Police Department nor the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension would confirm or deny Williams' account of events, citing the ongoing investigation. The department's use of force policy is vague, but it notes that officers should exercise special care when interacting with people known to struggle with mental illness. It also says that when an officer does use force, they are to render first aid as soon as it is practical and safe to do so. As he waits for the release of body camera footage, she loved everything. She loved everybody. That's fine. Again, without the full report and the body cam footage, we only have one side to go on here, but she intended this. She intended it. And unfortunately, that's, when people want to go, they're going to go. But you don't call the cops if you don't expect them to stop the threat. They stop the threat. That's what they do. That's what cops do in deadly situations, is they stop the threat. That is their main goal. You called the police when she was drunk, mentally ill, and had a gun. And then you act surprised. And this happens. Again, every time I see it, I'm sitting there going, what did you think was going to happen? When you've got a person who is attacking with a weapon, that's what's going to happen. Well, this person it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what they know. It doesn't matter what they, what they usually do. He even said it himself. This was a different case. This was different. She wasn't just mentally ill. She wasn't on, whatever it was. She wasn't even just drunk and mentally ill, and worse for the wear. She was drunk, mentally ill, and had a firearm. She had a weapon. And she wanted to go. She wanted to unalive herself, self-delete, whatever you want to call it, Again, there needs to be a massive conversation about mental illness. But in these particular cases, when you call the police regarding someone in this situation, what do you honestly expect to happen? It dumbfounds me every single time. Anyway, you guys let me know in the comments below. Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you agree? Disagree? If you made it this far, of course, I'd appreciate any like, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff. I will see you in the next one. You guys take care. Bye for now.